All right, well, let's get right into this. You've got in store for us a pretty nice treat. Like I said, we don't usually talk about nurturing, and in this case, you're going to go over nurturing automation and the authenticity, which sometimes gets lost in that automation. So show us what you got, bud.
That's right. And I could tell that this is one of those topics that people tend to like, nurture, I got it. And the reason is because the attendees. You
Yeah,
can
but
tell, right?
the good thing is that you got a good audience on Facebook.
You talk about something hot and sexy and everyone's there, right? Okay.
That's
So
right,
we
dude.
talk about nurturing and people tend to tune out. But for those of you here, well, guess what? We've got a little treat for you, right? So you're going to learn some cool stuff.
That's right, dude.
All right, so let me go ahead and share my screen. There we go. Let's see if that goes. All right. First, I like to stress everyone out with my icons. And then, once I've done that,
I'm stressed. There we go.
I will share the screen there.
5 components of ultimate follow-up machine. Nice.
Right, exactly. So now, when it comes to creating nurture, follow-up, I think a lot of us tend to kind of rely on email. Most times when I talk to people, the nurturing is really solely left to email.
Yeah.
And unfortunately with email, I put them on a drip system, or I put them on a newsletter, I put them this and that. And as you know, you kind of have to, email has its part, but I don't really like to rely solely on email to do the follow-up for me.
Okay.
Because with email, while it keeps you in front of them, or they see your email or your name here and there, it's not something that's going to maintain that personal connection. And a lot of times, especially when you deal with past clients, which is where I'm going to focus a bit on. I'm going to talk about both new leads and past clients, but I'll start with past clients. When you're talking about past clients, these are people you've worked with in the past. These are people who you've more than likely spent some time with, even built up some relationships with. And after that transaction, to just kind of put them on an email, you're going to lose that connection. It's going to weaken.
Okay.
Because an email doesn't have enough to carry the weight, right? It just doesn't. So that's why you go into creating a different variety of touch points, different variety. So that could be email, that could be using the phone, or simply just the fact leaving voicemail. Sometimes people hesitate using the phone. They don't want to use the phone. Like, I don't, what's the point of calling them? They don't answer. I just leave a voicemail anyway. That's still a touch. It's still an attempt, and it's going to be better than an email because it shows a personal attempt, right, to maintain that relationship. If anything, now they'll feel bad if they're not holding up their end.
Of course.
The other thing is text messages. Text messages is kind of like the best of both or all worlds, because with text message, it is a personal response. It has a higher open rate than an email. They don't get as many of them. And text is one of the things that aren't usually automated, right? So emails, most of the times, you're not sending emails like an actual email saying, hey, how are you doing? How are you and the family? Your email campaigns are usually more like a long email or tips or a newsletter. This and that. That's fine. Those are nice. But you want to mix them up. You don't. That's like giving them information, and a lot of people will enjoy that stuff, and they'll use the tips and the recipes and all that stuff, and that's great. But if you never mix in a, hey, how are you and the family, right? Then it doesn't feel like you're personally actually keeping in touch with them. It's just like a computer's keeping in touch with them, right?
True.
Now, Tristan, he takes us to a new level, right? So his stuff feels, even though it's a newsletter, even though it's email content, it still feels very personal because he's sharing things and he's creating those custom. But most of us don't have the time, and we're not doing that. We're relying on an automated service or relying on an automated email or campaigns that are kind of like clearly boilerplate. So they don't come off as personal, right? They come off as boilerplate. And so they don't have the same meaning as of like, oh, I knew you worked so hard on putting together, for example, you were showing the other day, right? Your favorite book this month. That's different because he's putting personal things in there. So how do you do this with all these different events that we're going to talk about? Because a lot of times people say, well, I don't have time to do that. I don't have time to send out, my database, I have several hundred people in there, past clients. And then when we talk about new leads, then you get into a whole nother aspect, because some of you could have not just hundreds, but maybe thousands of contacts that are people you haven't even talked to before. So we're gonna cover both. We're gonna talk about both different situations and how you handle them differently. So I'm still gonna talk about past clients for the moment. So, okay, so then we have text messages. Some of you do events. I know those have been put on hold a little bit. You might do client events. I know one of my my agent's team, they would do something at the movie theater. They'd buy out all the tickets for one of the theaters and do a whole family movie night, that kind of thing. You have postcards and mailers, which a lot of us would do to get leads, right, when we're farming, but a lot of us don't include our past clients in those. So you want to make sure your past clients are getting that type of attention with those mailers too, because they're more likely to not just refer business, right? Because they've already have experience with you, they already know you, they already trust you. So those postcards and mailers can have even more impact, especially if you were to mix in some handwritten postcards, which can also be automated, which I'll talk about. And then personal visits. Huh?
I want to see that, dude.
Yeah, there's a couple ways to do that. Super awesome. And personal visits, that's, again, something kind of on hold right now. So some people have, what we've recommended is changing these to virtual visits via Zoom meeting or Google Hangout or a Facebook Messenger, group call or something like that, where you're just doing video. The idea is just having video communication in place of personal communication. And a lot of people, once you can visit in person, people would do stop-bys or, hey, I'm going to be in your neighborhood or things like that, and they just kind of stop. So even if you're just putting something on your Facebook page, hey guys, we're going together for a little happy hour, join me, and then invite those people, invite your past clients to that. These are just little things you could do where you can kind of go one to many, and then you can have, instead of going one-on-one meetings, right? And then you can all kind of socialize or get together. And people are dying for that socialization right now. So, they really want that. So these types of things work. People are more likely to show up now because there's only so much they could be doing, right, on a Friday night. So those are just some things. And then gifts is not, that's more when you have like your new clients, or if you want to do like different things. I'm not going to get into all that. That's like, we talked about lumpy mail and all that kind of stuff, but these are just different touch points, okay? And these are gifts. Sometimes people send things out around Christmas, holidays. Agents may drop by, things like baskets or fruit baskets or chocolates or things like that. Our agent does every either Thanksgiving or Christmas. She'll always drop by a little something, just a gift for the family, basically. And it's usually something that it could be like a Christmas decor that's customized, or it could be just a little like, something you might use at your holiday party or something like that, right? But it keeps her top of mind for us, and that she's remembering us and keeping in touch with us. All right. Now, how do you automate some of this stuff? That's what we want to go into again, because people don't have the time. Let's see. Before I go into that, let's see. We talked about, I kind of skipped this, the contacts database. I'm assuming that you have a CRM. Now, I know a lot of you maybe don't use it, but by having that database and having these contacts in there is going to allow you to make all this stuff work. If you're working out of Excel, it's going to be pretty tough to automate the things I'm going to show you. And I'm sure Tristan would agree with me on that.
Hey, that's fine, dude.
Is anyone here not using a CRM at all in the chat? I'm just curious.
See what we got. Everybody out there using a CRM, or are some of you using an Excel sheet or some sort of place that you put your client
Phone
information?
or something.
Just your phone.
All right.
See what we got. I'll
I
tell
guess
you what people are saying on Facebook. CRM. We got a few CRMs, dude.
So hopefully you are. I assume most of the people here are using some kind of CRM, or at least they have access to one. So if you have access to one, you're not quite using it. You know, sometimes I'll talk to people like, oh, you know, I got to learn how to use it first. I got to go through this training. But like, no, just use the basics. You know, just start using something. So you're keeping notes and updating, and start to, you know, maybe she has a CRM, totally terrible using it. And then maybe if it's something that's too complex, it could just be overkill for what you need right now. So maybe just think about using less of the features, or using a CRM that has more simple, you know, features, or just add them and categorize them, and don't get into all the other stuff where you have to learn everything quite yet. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. The next thing with the follow-up too, I want to touch on is just the schedule and consistency. A lot of us don't use a schedule to keep in touch. We kind of do it when we have time. The issue with that, and this goes for new leads or past client leads, the biggest issue with that is you rarely have time, unless you're blocking it out, to follow up. So if you're not blocking it out, you're probably not going to do it. And that's why what happens is, I talk to agents all the time. They'll be like, oh, when's the last time you follow up? Oh, you know, I think it was just a couple months ago, a few months ago. And then when you really dig in, it turns out it was like a year and a half ago because time flies, right? Time flies by. I can't even believe how long it's been since March, which is when this whole COVID thing started. And just thinking about, wow, that many months have gone by. And it's just like, it's all a blur, right? So not keeping in touch, or not blocking that out, and not being consistent with it. That's probably one of the biggest issues when it comes to follow-up, is consistency. And I think most people, if that's you, you know, I guess I would say I. All right, so what makes a great follow-up system? Well, I'm not going to dig too much into this because I'm going to talk more about the nurturing, the automation, and keeping those personal. But these are just important, because all of that means nothing if you don't have a schedule, if they're not triggered to go out on certain times or dates. So you would want to have something, you know, that goes out every 3 months or every 2 months, or maybe new leads, it's going to be more often, right? You might have something initially it goes out daily or every other day, weekly, and then kind of spreads out a little bit.
Okay.
And then for past clients, it's going to be something a little more sporadic, from monthly to bi-monthly, just kind of depending, right? And then the automation. This is the part we're gonna spend a little extra time on. And that's, how do you do this in a way that you can automate it, right? Because you need help. A lot of you don't have the time to do it, because you already have a million tasks that you do every day. And a lot of you, what you end up doing is you take on all this stuff and don't leave it up to automation for many reasons. Many is just not understanding really how to properly use the automation. Sometimes when you try to use automation, you almost try to automate too much, and you're trying to get out of doing everything. And when you do that, it goes wrong, and then you back out, and then like, okay, cancel that. I'm gonna just go back the way I was doing it. That's because you try to automate everything, which isn't really realistic. And then sometimes you just feel like it just can't be done any other way unless you do it, which ends up putting it back on your to-do list. It ends up putting it back on you, right? So this is kind of a little chart here, or graphic, that just shows you these are all the things you handle in a day. And when I talk to agents and I listen and I hear about what they're doing, so few of them actually put these tasks in a system. And not to go too deep, but these systems could be automatic technical systems or technology, and some of them could be human systems. When I mean like your team, employees, assistants, how much of the stuff you just keep to yourself because you don't spend the time, or don't have the time to spend the time, or whatever the justification is, to put it into a system or make it a system so that others could execute it for you, whether that be a person or that be technology. The other thing that holds a lot of agents back from automating things is technical know-how. A lot of people don't feel very, I'm gonna stop that so there's not two videos. A lot of people don't feel very confident in their technical know-how, and so that's another thing that they do, right? That's another thing that they do that holds back. And I have a full training where I go much deeper into all of this stuff.
Okay.
And so you guys are more welcome. I think Tessa's gonna post the link in the chat if you guys want to see like the full-on like training. This one I'm just gonna focus on like just one piece of it, and then I do have other trainings that go into other ways to follow up besides just these normal ones that you hear about every single day and all the time, right? We talked about a little bit follow-up, digital follow-up ads, staying top of mind, all that stuff. So it's called the New Age of Follow-Up, and that's a training that I'm going to be doing multiple times this week and next week. All right, so now, when it comes to automation, what you want to do is you want to analyze the tasks that you're currently doing and think about what can be automated. Now, sometimes people don't know. And if you're in a super advanced situation and you want to, and meaning you're spending money, you maybe on ads, you're top, I would say you consider yourself a top producer and you're looking to automating more tasks. Honestly, you might need to like personally consult with someone who can help look at what you're doing and then give you advice on like, okay, here's how you're going to automate it.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's something like you guys would be interested in. We do that, but it is a separate thing because it's more of a like we're working with people personally. And obviously that's a little more difficult because it can't, work with everybody. But if you're interested in that, just post in the chat. Maybe we can get you details at the end. And the reason I say is because a lot of times people don't know what can be automated. You don't know what you don't know. So I'm going to teach you some stuff right now that can be automated. And I think you'll be like, oh, wow, I didn't know I can automate that. But you can go so much further in the automation. It's just, there's just so much to it. There's AI, there's Zapier. Zapier can, knowing how to use it and master it, you can automate all kinds of different things. There's literally, when I talk to people all the time, because I'm like an automation person and a tech person and a developer and all that, right? That's my world. So when I talk to people and learn about their businesses, they'll usually tell me, oh, I have to do this and then this, and it takes me this long and blah, blah. Or even my employees, they'll be doing things that's like, you watch this task unfold for like 30 minutes to an hour. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Oh, I have to do this. I'm like, oh my God, you have to do that every single time? They're like, yeah. I'm like, why didn't you say something? Oh, I just figured that's the way it's done. And I'm like, here, let me, by tomorrow, just stop, and I would go write a script. This would happen all the time. I would go write a script and make it so that it's like, yeah, now just copy and paste these in, press that button, and there's the result, right? Like, oh my God. So I really have to be undercover boss more often because you don't know about those things until you're doing it. So when I work with agents in the same way, it's kind of the same thing, right? It's like, what are you doing? Why are you doing it like that? Oh, well, I got this lead and I have to go put it here and then this system and then I have to go do this. And then it's like all these multiple steps. And it's like, no, you don't have to do that. You just use this system and that, and just once it goes here and these are connected, and then it's all automated. You just have to do one thing. Yeah. And you literally save like so many, sometimes it's several minutes, but it's several minutes times 5 and 10 or 11 or whatever, or it's hours. When you add that over the month, it becomes a lot of extra time. So what do you do with that free time, right? So what you want to do is you want to take the tasks that you're handling every single day, identify, this is where it's a little trouble. I'm going to try and identify some of them for you right now. But again, if you're in a more advanced situation and you want to automate more and you want to work with me, you can just WesleyRocha.com, I guess, would be the easiest. If you want to do more one-on-one consultation on that. But anyway, these are the tasks you put in the system. And now I want to actually go into, I think I want to go into my, yeah, this will be good. I'm going to show a couple follow campaigns that we have in our system.
Okay.
But before I do that, I think I'm going to go through this, this section here. So an automated follow campaign, what does that mean? Well, what it means is what it says, right? An email or text or voicemail, all these things could be sent automatically or triggered automatically on a schedule to your database or to certain contacts. You wouldn't just blast it to everyone. There's different campaigns for different segments. That's why having your CRM and segmenting your contacts is so important. Most of the times when we work with people, we've dealt with thousands of clients at this point who have their lists. They're all just jumbled together and not really segmented. So when you do that, it does get a little difficult. So before you go and approach this automated thing, what I'd recommend doing is just starting with a small segment just to kind of dip your toe in the water before using the automation. Because this is where a lot of agents kind of go wrong, is they'll kind of have it and they'll just kind of, oh, I don't know what's what. They'll kind of just add the whole thing and then they'll have a mess on their hands, right? So the automated campaign, what it's going to do is we're going to go out, it's going to send out the text or send the emails or send the stuff for you. So let me show you kind of like how that works. Let's see if I have a, actually, no, let me show you one more thing I saw on this next slide. Here are some examples. I wanted to show you this because this is a really easy one that you can screenshot or copy down or whatever. And I hope it doesn't show my Zoom windows all right here. But if you're going to send an email, right, in your campaigns, if you are sending news, you're sending other stuff, what I'd recommend doing is just sending something that feels personal. Don't use a template. Don't put it in a template or fancy design. Don't put a whole too fancy of a signature. Just use your normal signature. You really just want a plain font email that looks like any other email that you would just write in your email program, right? If you opened your Outlook or you opened your email program and you were just to write an email, what format is that? Do you put templates and designs in every email you send out? No, you don't. You just write an email. So what you want is you want your automated email, a few of them at least, to look just like a regular email. Hey, how are you doing? Just checking my contact list.
I'm going to interrupt you there only so that people that are paying attention here on the Facebook side and on this side, do me a favor and take a snapshot of this, because it's there as an example and it's also there as a reminder. Sometimes we overthink the emails that we send out or the text that we send out. And I know some of you have a challenge because I've seen the emails that you send out and it feels like a book. And if you're reaching out to me with a book, I'm not going to read it. I'm going to read the first sentence. So also do yourself a favor. If it's a text, only ask one question per text. And in an email, I mean, maybe maximum 2 questions, but almost keep it just to 1, because if you send me an email or a text and it has like all these questions, I'm just going to answer one and ignore the rest. So the same thing with the consumer on the client side, whether it's Sphere, past clients, or anyone, the simpler you make it, the more authentic you make it just like this, the better the response you're going to get.
Exactly. You know, you never want to be sending email or text and make it feel like you're giving them homework or an assignment. Like, you know, you're kind of, you know, send an email, it's like, what's this? You run a long dissertation, right? It's like, homework? I don't have time to read this, right? I'm just going to go back to eating bagels. So whatever. So whatever it is, they're not going to do it, right? It just feels like overwhelming and they skip it, like Tristan said. So you want it to just feel personal. I was just checking my contact list, want to check in, catch in a bit. Do you have a couple minutes for a quick call? What we're trying to do is set up some quick calls. Some of them say no, and they'll just respond an email, whatever. The whole point is creating conversations. And that's really what it comes down to. It comes down to creating conversations. Because the more conversations you're having, the more business you're going to be getting from your prospects, because a percentage are going to refer and a percentage are going to reuse. So it's all about conversations. A lot of people I talk to have very little conversations with their past client database. And they don't know how to leverage the data. I said, well, if you just had, and I'm going to show you this, if you were able to call or text or whatever, like 10 people a day, right? And maybe out of those 10 people, maybe 3, 4, 5 of them, maybe more replied. That would probably be too many. So maybe you only text 6 a day, depending on the quality of your list, right? And let's say 3 or 4 replied and you set up calls with them. That's a lot of conversations. That's if 3 applied or replied, and we're just talking about not weekends and everything, but you're going to be doing almost 60 calls or 60 conversations a month extra just off that. It doesn't seem like a lot, but it sure does compound. And everyone has time, I think, to send out or to have those conversations, right? So now imagine automating that. Because if you have to text 10 people to get 3 replies, you see what I'm saying? There's 7 texts that you sent out that didn't get any response. That's what we're going to talk about. Oh, and the text message here, like he said, they're just super short. I'm just checking my contacts, and I wanted to check in and catch up. Or here's one. Hey, I was in the area, wanted to check in. Hope you're doing great. Have you seen what homes been selling for in your neighborhood? These are just curiosity ones. They're real estate related. They're very casual. They feel personal. These are things that you might just text people, right? And so you're going to use these types of texts in your automation as well. The other piece I like to use, another feature I like to use for automation besides the text and the emails is the voicemail drops, right? Ringless voicemail. And basically just the way it works is you create a voicemail once, and then that voicemail can be used over and over again and just dropped directly on the voicemail of your prospects or your clients or past clients or whatever. And it basically just shows up in their voicemail. It shows up as a missed call from you in their voicemail, and it will show your caller ID or your phone number, whatever one you designate. And so those are nice because a lot of times when you're calling, people are busy and it does go to voicemail a lot of times, especially for newer leads, and because they don't know the number regardless. You might you probably have a little bit higher success rate depending with your past clients, right? Depending, but in any case, even just leaving the voicemails, right? Because again, we don't have time to call, right? But we want to make it seem as if we have the time to call. Yeah. Leaving those voicemails is a touch, and they can see that you reached out to them. Again, you're not going to go on this whole long drawn thing about, hi, I'm just seeing how you're doing. And by the way, we wanted to let you know, do you know anyone looking to move, or do you have anyone to refer to me, or blah, blah, blah. You ask, right? You don't want to do that. You want to do just relationship building stuff. And that's the #1 problem we have when people want to go edit our messages and our pre-written texts and emails and voicemails and everything. It's like, oh, I don't want to do that. And then they go in and add the classic, well, if you know anyone looking to buy or sell real estate, remember, I'm a real estate agent. Make sure to send them over to me. It's like, you don't really always, like, if you did a good enough job and you really impressed them, you don't really have to ask. Like, if you did it all right, if you did it all right, you don't really have to ask. The referrals come naturally because you hit all the check. You really did deliver 5-star. You really impressed them. So they actually can't wait to refer you. Now, I understand in some cases you have to, you want to ask. And some people say, hey, ask for the referral because they just don't think of it. And that's fine. But it shouldn't be in your voicemail that you're reaching out to them like out of nowhere. I could see if you've already built a relationship, maybe, but I don't know. Tristan, what do you think? I always just say, not in a voicemail drop, not in voicemails. Don't bring up, hey, refer someone.
I don't do it, but there's a lot of agents that do it well, right? So if you're doing it well and you figured out a way that's not pushy or salesy, right?
Yeah.
That's cool. But if you just want to be more relaxed about it. I think that works with a lot more people, which is just don't bring it up on a voicemail, or on a text or on an email. Just feels like you're being too pushy. I have a question about this, Wesley.
Yeah.
What are we looking at here if we're going to use a ringless voicemail? Do you have any suggestions as to companies that we can use here?
Yeah. We use Slide Broadcast, I believe is the name. And there's some drawbacks to using some of the services because those are more geared, like you upload a list and then it kind of does them all, right? And what you really want is you want something that does a few at a time. And I'm going to show you how you can do that with our system. There's other ways you can do it, like with Zapier and all these things, but it gets way more complicated. So if you're a techie, you could probably figure that out. If you're not so techie, you can use something like LinkU, which I'll show you, that will automate this. But if you are trying to do kind of like a, if you want to do it manually or you want to do it through a service, live broadcast, or anything like that, if you just literally search Google for, slide voicemail or voicemail drop, anything like that, you'll find, ringless voicemail, exactly. You'll find different services. All right, so, and like Tristan was saying about the referral thing, it's basically we just don't recommend saying on our voicemail, text, or an email. When you're on the call,
you lost your audio a little bit, Wesley.
Oh, okay. Is it better now?
You still sound like a little robot, like a little tiny robot.
Like a really tiny, tiny robot, or like a bigger, strong robot?
Well, now you're getting a little bit bigger robot, but it still sounds like a robot.
All right, so it sounds like
that sounds better.
It's probably just the internet. All right, let me know if it goes again. I'll try switching to Wi-Fi.
It's there again.
All right, let me try this.
Well, when you get closer like that, it sounds good.
Okay. Well, I think
there you go. You're just switching over from your computer, from your phone to Wi-Fi, so you're frozen for about 10 seconds. Like Tessa said, you're turning into a bigger robot, so there is that. There you go.
Is it better?
Yep, much better. You got it.
Okay, so I'm on Wi-Fi now. We'll see if that helps.
Cool, cool.
All right, so let me show you how some of these campaigns could work. And you may have a CRM, you may have a system that does some of this stuff. So if you do, I would certainly investigate it or look in your help articles for whatever service you're using. Check the help articles and just search those keywords for creating automations or follow-up campaigns or things like that. But obviously, I'm partial to mine, so that's the one I'm going to show you.
Nice.
All right, so let's say I wanted to create one of these campaigns I was talking about, all right? And what I'll do is I'm going to start with a past client campaign.
All right.
So I already created one of these, so I'm just going to go into the event so you can kind of see what it looks like. And so this is basically what happens is once you have your contacts kind of figured out, right, you're going to add them to the campaign. Now, a couple of things of advice I would tell you is you're generally not going to add A-list, like your A-list contacts. You're not going to add it to an automated follow campaign. Excuse me, because usually these are people like either your friends or people you talk to on a daily basis, or not daily basis, but more often. And those are the people who are gonna be like, hey, what's going on? Like, who's this? Is this a scam? Or what's going, all that stuff with your automation. Because they're your A-list, so they're just very familiar with you already. And that's where you can go wrong with automation campaigns. That's why when I say automate, you want to automate the right things. Don't just try and automate everything, because that's when things go wrong and then you back out and just don't automate anything.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, and I'm telling you this from running lots of automations and a lot of automated campaigns, or helping agents with their automated campaigns. What happens? What kind of responses they get, and where they go wrong, where the mistakes are made. So the next thing here is you could see once that contact is in the campaign or multiple contacts, you see this is a text message you're going to get, just like the example that I showed you. Now, one thing you want to make sure is with any automated system, none of these automated systems, none of these CRMs can send from your mobile phone number. It just isn't allowed. Okay, so unless you're using some special app or some special something on your phone, only your phone can send text messages for the most part, you know, or from your I know there's text messaging apps on your computer, but you get the idea. Ultimately, it goes through your phone.
Wesley, there's a question. Greg's asking, does Google Voice work here in this case?
I don't think so. Google Voice would be a unless you port. No, I don't think so, because it would have to be an integration, right, that allowed you to use your Google Voice number with it. And I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but I haven't seen any of the CRMs, either us or our competitors, that offer that integration. They usually assign you a number.
Yep.
Typically. Now, there is another way to go around it, and the right way I might recommend might be to, if you have a number on your landline that has a caller ID attached to it, this is a little advanced trick. Get that number, get a number with your landline or whatever first. Get a caller ID attached to it first. Then, like if you come to a service with like ours, not all services will offer this, but we do offer it. We can port your number over from that service over to Twilio, which is our back end.
Nice.
And what ends up happening is that caller ID a lot of times will stay with that number. And so now when you're sending out your texts and your voicemails and all that stuff, it all comes from your name rather than a random, number, which is usually how most of the systems work. So it's a little extra step, but it is an extra step that might be worth it.
Yeah,
it's having the number already. Definitely. So that's cool. And then let's see what else. So then you have your email, and then you have obviously like you have an opt-out message in case they don't want to receive MEX. You want to be compliant. That's always important.
Nice.
And then it just kind of goes from there. Every month or so, it follows up. It mixes it in, right, with that conversation. Now, I don't have any voicemails by default in here because, I can't create a voicemail by default using the agent's voice. So they have to create that for themselves. But I want to show you something really cool, because what you can do is you would just simply add a voicemail event, right? You would record your voicemail.
Okay.
I wonder if I have a sample one in here. Let's see. I don't know if I have any good ones. Let's see.
The reason I was calling is I was going through your account and I noticed that.
Yeah, anyway, so you record. I thought I had a okay one. I'll just use this one.
Hey, this is Wesley. I was just following up on a request that you had submitted regarding your home value, and I just wanted to, hoping to catch you, but it's unfortunate I missed you. Anyway, I just had a couple of quick questions so I can actually send you a final report, something a little more accurate than what you're going to get online. So if you give me a call back, my number is 951-684-8969. Hopefully I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
So it's just one of the voicemails. Obviously, that was like for a seller follow-up, like a home value follow-up.
Okay.
You're not going to use their name. You're not going to use any like specifics, but you do want to make it sound like any other voicemail. If it's too scripted, it kind of sounds automated. And I think a lot of times when agents create these voicemails, they do, for whatever reason, they read it off a script, but then they read it like they're performing a script. And you don't want to do that. So when you create your voicemails, you don't want to say, "Hi, this is Wesley Rocha, and I'm calling you because I wanted to check in to see how you were doing this week, and if you'd like to set up a call with me. If so, give me a call back at 1-888-99." You don't want to do that. It's like a commercial, right? So look at your voicemails. Just pay attention to how do you sound when you leave voicemails, and make it more natural. A lot of times you're gonna be you're gonna try and sound professional, but it's going to sound natural. There's going to be pauses. There's going to be maybe some hesitation. There might be some correction, right? Because all your words won't be perfect, things like that. So you might say, hey, this is Wesley here.
We lost you again. You're a little robot. I love little robot Wesley, by the way.
Yeah, sorry about that. What are you gonna do?
Hey, dude, it's so good.
Is it a robot still? Okay.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good
All
right now. You're good right now.
I'm just gonna be like, I'm LinkU the robot. I'm gonna show you how to do this. Okay.
I'll remember now. LinkU the robot, dude.
It's true. LinkU is our bot friend who runs all these things for you. So basically you're just gonna have the hesitation. You're gonna have the pauses and things like that, like the voicemail I just played for you.
Okay, cool.
Okay. All right. So once you do that, you add the event in, and then now it's going to be part of your campaign. So when someone gets a text message or whatever, right, they're going to get my voicemail. I can have them get it first. I can get it second, whatever. These drag and drop. I'm not going to get all that stuff. But they'll get the voicemail as part of that follow-up.
Oh, dude, hold on. You can. So this is. I haven't seen the back end here. So let's say I put in a voicemail or a text or an email. I can rearrange them from here?
Yes. Yeah, you just rearrange them however you want.
Oh, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah, you can customize, you can rearrange, you can, we have all kinds of like text messages. So like, for example, I'll give you an idea. And this is where a lot of people get stuck when they're creating campaigns, right? It's like, well, what do I say? What's the text message I reply? Or what I do this, I want to customize it. Everyone has their own little thing. Well, we've got like hundreds of text messages in here, right? They're already all pre-written for you. So you don't really have to come up with anything. All you have to do is say, oh, let me start with this. And if you want to make changes to it, great. There's also these cool like bumps, which I really like for new leads, right? Where you just add a whole crap ton of these bumps. Which are basically conversation bumps. And we're going to talk about that in new leads. But when you have a new lead, sometimes it'll reply to the first message, right? So what do you say? Well, you just add these bumps in there. Or you can even do these with your past clients too. Like, hey, would you like to meet on a Zoom call? And you don't hear back for a day. So 2 days later, or a day later or whatever, you can say, hey, let me know either way, smiley face. And you can create all these different, hey, is this still your number? Like, what's going on? Are you there? You're ignoring my calls. I'm wondering what's going on, right? So you use personalized stuff. Using the emojis, that's huge. Using emojis in your automations, right? Because these are things that generally, people use emojis, right, in their text messaging naturally and not in their personal conversations and stuff like that. You don't see that too much in automations.
I love that.
Okay.
Are you there? I love the emoji one, dude. That was really good.
And then we have some, these are like holiday ones or attached as an image and stuff like that. So anyway, there's all different things. So the content's already there in our system because we know people don't want to come up with stuff. But on top of that, the campaign's already there too. So as you can use these for your past clients, one other thing you can do too.
We lost your audio.
And a manual reminder is this. I can create a task. So I'll create this task and I'll go next step. And what it will do is I say, oh, you know what? I want to make sure I want to call this person personally, right? Because this is their 1 year anniversary for buying.
Awesome.
So yeah, I mean, you could do an automation for that, guys, but how many clients do you have where you can't like make a personal call, right? I like to do a personal call on like anniversaries or 6-month anniversaries or things like that, because you can make that call more personal. The key is just remembering to do it and when to do it. Well, if you're using the CRM properly, you can have a campaign for that, and then it would be there every year, a manual call, right? A manual text, and that gets added into your calendar automatically. So when this runs, all it does is it just throws that task in your calendar on Google, in your Google Calendar or whatever. So what that is, now I don't have to remember to call the Smith family every July 2nd. I don't have to remember that because every July 2nd, it's going to show up on my calendar automatically because the LinkU platform is adding it there automatically. Does that make sense? So now I just say, oh, anniversary. It shows my calendar. I pick up the phone, make a quick call. Hey, just want to say, you know, if I get a hold of them, boom. Now it seems like you freaking on top of it, right? You know everything going on. So you're not going to use manual events for everything. You're just going to use it for those real special occasions. But the system allows you to do that. Or you can even mix in manual events into your automated campaigns.
I have a question about this.
Yes.
Do you see most agents use this for new online leads coming through, past clients or Sphere? What are you using? What are most people using this one for?
Because there's so many focus on new leads, we tend to focus more on the past clients and Sphere. Got it. Now, you can, and I'll jump into that for a minute just to kind of give you that visualization. Let's say I wanted to create a campaign for leads, because I don't have an ISA, you know, but I want to make sure, because we know speed to lead, right? If you don't have speed to lead, then you're going to lose out. So I want to make sure I have, maybe I call this like my automated ISA, right? So let's say I have a new lead and maybe it's going to be, let's go with a list. So we'll go ahead and go with new property lead. Okay. All right. And then I just enter my signature, all that stuff. And then I'm going to create the campaign. So when a new lead comes in, the most important thing is going to be the speed to lead. Again, you don't want this to feel automated. This is all about, I don't know if we're getting off track, but this is just about making your automation feel personal, right? Yeah. So same kind of thing. Hey, you were looking to schedule time to view the home. Are you you found online? Do you want to schedule? I'm sorry. Do you want to schedule a time to look at the home, or are you just casually looking? Obviously, you have your name, your company. One other thing I recommend everybody doing is with these types of campaigns, if you add a photo that might be relevant, or at least show that's like you're responding in the time or now, or just to throw a face or something. It may not make sense for everyone, and maybe not for every type of request, but there are some where it can really, I guess, help them, because a lot of times people are like, oh, who's this or whatever, you know? So that's something to think about, is just kind of dressing up your text messages with a photo. Okay. Same thing though, this thing would go out immediately. It would also go out immediately with a voicemail and an email. So as you see here, as soon as the lead comes in, they're going to get the text. They're going to get the compliance text as well. They're going to get the voicemail, right? And then they're going to get the email immediately, all within, well, they come out, they don't all like jump at once, like boom, 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 like the wolf from The Office, right? Where everything's going off at once. Yeah. They actually come in like a couple minutes. So it has a natural flow to it, right? It feels like you texted, and then the text will like, oh, you know, hey, I just sent you a text, or you can reverse it. Sometimes I like to reverse it, right? Do the voicemail. Hey, just checking to see if you want. I'll go ahead and try sending you a text, and then the text comes after, right? And then the email comes after, something like
Wesley,
that.
If they respond back through the text, I have two questions. Where do we get it, and does it shut off automatically so it doesn't continue?
Yeah, so as you can see, right, if they don't respond by text, this thing just keeps going, right? It just goes and goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. However, if they do, you can have it so it stops, right? You can have a campaign goal, or I can just add a rule that says, hey, if they respond by text with anything, then go ahead and just stop the campaign. You could move them to another campaign. You could, you know, whatever, do other things with that. You can get creative with it. Or you can even say, oh, you know what? Anyone who says they want to schedule, I'm going to send them to my schedule campaign. And then you might have one that actually starts sending out your calendar link or something like that, right? That moves them into the next stage.
Ooh, I like that,
And
dude.
yeah, or you could just, like I said, or you can handle that manually, which most our people will handle that manually once they respond. It's usually until you start getting more volume and more advanced, then you start getting in some of the more advanced rules, and then you start doing multi-campaigns and all that. But generally for the beginner, they're not going to start with that. You're just going to start with this and then start with one basic rule, and that's just if anyone responds at all, just stop the campaign.
All right. And we've got, Wesley, we got 5 minutes if you want to tell people how to sign up and wrap it up there so we don't.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So I think for the most part, you know, whether your system does this or you find another system that does it or whatever, ultimately, hopefully what you, let me stop sharing my screen here for, oh, one quick thing, guys, because I want to cover the postcards. The handwritten postcards, stuff like that.
I love that.
Our system does send out postcards, but I want to show you another little service that does handwritten postcards. And we're looking to at some point integrate this into our system. But there's a couple different services that offer this. I'll give you one of these, and you can actually probably Google a few others. But basically, think about like if you schedule it on their birthday or you did something like that, right? Well, there's services like this where you could put your contacts in, or like a system like ours when we have the integration where you can have the campaigns trigger these automatically. And what they do is they are card. You can request, actually, I think they let you request a sample, which is really cool. But you see this integrations here? You can pretty much integrate it with almost any of the CRMs, even the one you're using now, because you can use Zapier to integrate it. So you see here, there's a Zapier integration. So what does that mean? Well, what it means is, let's say there's a birthday or an anniversary of their buying or whatever. The way it would work is you go in and you choose, like, you have the text that's going to go out. You have their name or variables, right? Maybe the address variable, maybe the first name variable, whatever. And then you pick like the card you want to use, like the design or whatever. And what will happen is every time that date occurs or happens or whatever the trigger you want to be, sometimes people want to use this for home value leads, right? So because you get the address, as soon as a home value lead comes in, it kicks out one of these handwritten cards, right? Yeah. Which stands out a little bit more than a postcard. Yeah, and anyway, so it's handwritten. They're handwritten and they go out automatically. So it's not like you having to pay somebody or whatever. They're relatively inexpensive in comparison. And yeah, so anyway, I'll throw that in. I just wanted to kind of throw that in last second. You could see all the different cards here. So yeah, $3 or so. So you're not going to go crazy with them. You're going to use them for very specific situations, but it does give you the option of a handwritten card. And there are other services that might be a little bit cheaper, but this is one of the main ones.
Nice, man. And that integrates with LinkU. So give me pricing for this part.
Our plans are to integrate it into our system so that, like, you know, when I was adding the chat, like I was adding voicemail, adding this, adding that it would be an option, add handwritten postcard, and you would just add it to the campaign. So we're working on that. We're going to be working on that integration. But in the meantime, it doesn't matter who you're using. That's the best part. You can go directly to a company like this, sign up, and just link it up through Zapier, through whatever CRM you're using.
Nice.
Makes sense.
All right.
So
put up the link, dude, to the follow-up training. Can you explain?
Yeah, the follow-up training, I go into some other follow-up techniques. I go a lot into the follow-up ads and how to kind of use the follow-up ads to make all this stuff work better. And the way you do that is by just them recognizing your name, becoming a celebrity to the people that already know, like, and trust you, or have already engaged with your brand in some way, rather than trying to become a celebrity to like an entire zip code or neighborhood, which takes a lot more time and effort. Kind of like the strategy you went over yesterday. That's essentially what you've done, but using postcards, right?
That's right. I like it, dude. So if somebody wants to just sign up for the part of LinkU that you automate,
yeah,
how do people do that?
You just go to linkurealty.com and then you can request an invite. we don't, it's not like free trial. It's not like that kind of thing. The reason being is because for these types of things, a lot of times we're going to help you import your lists, get them all, or we'll help you clean that up, or at least guide you in doing that. A lot of times people want help setting up the campaigns, figuring out which campaigns should be set up, launching them, all that kind of stuff. And so it's not something that we found worked very well, just letting people go in, just because people will get in and then they don't really do anything.
All right, dude, I love that.
Yep.
So if any of you missed this, what we're going to do, hold on, let me grab that. We're going to send the recording over to Wesley, and Wesley can send it out to all of you. And Wesley, if you want to include anything else with that, man, just go ahead and do it as well.
Sounds good.
I love it, bro. Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
All right, man. Thanks for having me on again.
Have fun on Big Bear.
Oh, yes.
At the story, what is this?
The Storybook Cottage?
Storybook Cottage.
Storybook Cottage Big Bear, coming soon, right? About to be on the market next week or two. All right.
Thanks, man.
All right, talk to you later. Bye-bye.